Opera MediaWorks may not be a brand that you know very well, but we're in market today with a portfolio of brands. AdMarvel is an ad tech platform, Mobile Theory, Fourth Screen are premium ad networks here in North America and in Europe, and we have a performance platform as well. So the lens that I'm going to talk through is from all the marketing and advertising that runs across these platforms. So we service more than 14,000 premium publishers and sites and applications today. We serve more than 65 billion ad impressions a month. Our reach is over 400 million consumers. So many of the speakers that you heard yesterday and today, companies like Pandora, CBS, Condé Nast, Wired, are our customers. And that influences the lens, as well as on the advertiser side. A vast majority of the Ad Age 100 run campaigns on our platform. Also, what you'll see here is representative of over $1 billion of ad spend in 2013. Geographically, about 50% of our traffic is here in the United States, but it's quite diverse around the world, about 20% from Europe, from Asia, from Latin America, and other emerging parts of the market. So if you look at the platforms, if you think about Android, iOS, and other smartphones, IDC just released this data last week that there's in Q3 212 million Android devices hit the market. Compare that to 34 million iOS devices. So the ratio there is about 6-to-1. And then this is also an observance. It's really just a two-horse race. The other is really not making much in terms of market share. Now, if you look at those numbers, but then compare that with monetization, this is a reflection of all the traffic that runs through our system and the monetization. iOS is still king, even though Android devices are shipping 6-to-1 versus iOS devices. 44% of the ad impressions that flow through our platform come from an iOS device. 50% of the monetization, so if you think about the ad spend, comes from iOS devices. Android represents about 30% of both traffic and monetization. A big part of that difference is iPad. iPad represents about 9% of the market in terms of ad impressions, while Android tablets are less than 1%. Another really interesting phenomena in the platform wars is how quickly does the install base upgrade to the latest software. So we reported at the end of Q3, iOS 7 shipped on September 18th. So to the end of the quarter, there was 13 days. And in those 13 days, iOS devices went from 0 to 62% of the install base being on iOS 7. You compare that to Android, Jelly Bean, the latest version of Android that shipped in middle of 2012, only 50% of those devices are on the latest operating system. You fast forward that to today, iOS 7 is on about 75% of all iOS devices, and Jelly Bean has maybe moved up 4 percentage points in that same month and a half. We talk about content categories. One area, if you think about Q3, Q4, very heavily sports driven. Here's a quick snapshot of how sports users engage with content and what type of ad opportunities are there within that content. In hockey, 62% of impressions associated with hockey content is from an iOS device, only 30% from an Android device. In baseball, the contrast is even stronger. 75% coming from an iOS device versus 22% from an Android device. Now let's talk a little bit more about monetization. Click-through rate is a great proxy for success of advertising campaigns as well as ad spend and monetization. If you look at banner ads versus rich media ads, and also look at the separation between in-application advertising, which is the vast majority of advertising on mobile today, compared to the mobile web, the click-through rate on standard banners they're better than desktop digital, but they're not great. You're looking at 0.4% versus rich media, which is all the power of being able to deliver more of a full screen experience. It's over 1.5% for in-app advertising on mobile devices. But here again, if you translate that back to Android versus iOS, iOS consistently delivers almost 19% better click-through rate than on Android platforms. So hopefully this sets a foundation for an interesting discussion. And I'll turn it back to Drew.